Hello, my name is Evan Perkins, and this is my HPR 108 final project, and I'll be talking about cell phone forensics in the 21st century. I'm going to be going over the history of forensics and the early techniques used, along with the current tools and methods of mobile digital forensics. And then I'll be going over the whole process from seizure to final analysis, and then the troubles and difficulties of mobile digital forensics. So, mobile digital forensics started around the late 90s and the early 2000s when cell phones were becoming popular. This was very primitive with early technology and early phones, and PDAs and cell phones were the main devices used by the public during these years. Forensic teams would take the photos of the screens of the devices to find data, but unfortunately this was very time consuming and the amount of data able to be retrieved wasn't that in-depth. Then, they moved from that technique and they moved on to using flasher boxes, which could get more data from the device, but they could also alter and change data, and they couldn't retrieve deleted data, and the altering of data could inevitably render all the information and data gathered useless. So that was a big problem along with the flasher boxes. So the conclusion for the early techniques is that these early forensics needed improvement, and they could only really receive call logs and text messages due to the fact that they were using simpler devices and not much data was being stored on cell phones in general. Now I'm going to talk about the current technology used in mobile digital forensics. So as everybody knows, there's been a huge leap in technology over the past decade or so, as early cell phones such as flip phones have turned into current smartphones such as the iPhone 6, iPhone 6 Plus, and all the Samsung phones and all other various third-party companies. And as this technology increased, forensics technology needed to catch up. And this current technology not only includes cell phones, but GPS, smartphones, cell phones, tablets, smart cameras, etc. There are so many different forms of data to be received on these devices. Like I said before, they can now receive call logs, call duration, text messages, picture messages, video, web browsing, applications, email, GPS location, social networking, and there's many other different forms of data on these devices now. Not only is there a lot more data on the actual devices, but there's external data on SD cards, which are mostly popular on non-Apple products, but still there's a lot of external storage, cloud storage. So these phones aren't simply just carrying text messages like they used to. There's a lot more data now. And with so much digital data on these devices, digital forensics needs to keep up. And how are they going to keep up to stay relevant and to stay on top of this growing technology? Now I'm going to talk about the current tools and technology used in digital forensics. Many companies provide mobile digital forensics not only in services but in devices, such as Cellbrite, Paraben, and Kessler, for a few examples. Cellbrite is the first one, and they provide a tool called the Touch Ultimate, and that is their main tool. That's what their standard is in their device. It provides extraction, decoding, analysis, and reporting of mobile digital data. And they sell a lot more products, but this is their main one, and it's very helpful in retrieving cell phone data. Along with Paraben, they provide logical and physical data extraction, and they can retrieve deleted data, which is very useful. And they work for Apple, Google, Android, BlackBerry, GPSs, and all different platforms that could possibly be used. And there's Kessler, which is similar to the others, and they're all pretty similar. But on their side, I found interesting that they gave reasons and situations for which digital mobile forensics would be necessary. They gave the examples of parent supervision of a child's phone if they believe that they're abusing it, or suspected bullying from kids, mobile or cyberbullying on their kids, spouses who are suspecting cheating, espionage, businesses checking on and seeing that their employees are using their devices right, or to check that if there's no insider deals as an employee from another company penetrating their business and trying to find data from their business. So a lot of stuff like that is what it's used for and what they advertise it to be used for. And now I'm going to talk about the acquisition of data and how the different methods that they retrieve it. And there's manual, logical, physical, and chip-off. Now here's a screenshot of my website where I talk about in more detail these specific processes. Now I'm going to talk about the whole process of digital analysis and seizure all the way from seizure to the presentation and eventual storage of this data. Because police and forensic teams have procedure to follow, and they also just want a logistical and organized way to retrieve and analyze data. The first step is intake, is when they get permission and they send their request for the test to be done, so they have to go to the courts and receive permission for them to do the test on these specific devices. And then for identification, they have to set legal parameters and get this from the authority, so they can get the authority to do so. And they must state the goals of the exam and the make and model of the device. It's sort of like when trying to apply for a warrant. They have to identify the scope of the warrant and what exactly they're going to be searching and how they're going to be doing so. And then they have to prepare. They have to get all the necessary tools for the procedure, and that involves research of the tools because different devices require different tools. Then there's isolation. They don't want the device to receive a live signal, or else there can be data added or data removed to interrupt the current data, rendering it possibly useless. So they use Faraday bags to not allow the signal, and that's a very popular tool used to do that. And then there's processing, which they do and perform the actual exam and the analysis. Then there's verification. They must verify the legitimacy of the data. They have to make sure it's complete and backed up and proven. Unfortunately, sometimes not all data is complete or accurate due to these tools, so they must find different ways, such as going onto the phone physically and checking that the data matches up with the data they received, perhaps using different tools, or maybe doing the test again to make sure that it's a legitimate test. Then they must document all of this, such as the date and time of the exam, other aspects of the exam, such as the make and model of device, once again, what tools were used, what was found, the results of the examination. And then they go to presentation. They have to plan how to present this to a client in the court, because they're not just going to be sitting on the data. They have to display it to somebody to prove a point or to show what data they have found. Then finally there's archiving, so they store for either access in the future, as in a future case, or the same case just later down the line. Both are useful because they can go back and find the data used originally, and you could possibly use it on other different cases, which could be useful. Now I'm going to talk about the difficulties that come with digital mobile forensics. One of the big problems is that there's no standard device. There are many different cell phones on different operating systems, different file systems, different companies, and so digital forensic teams need different tools and have to perform different methods for each different device. So there's no standard, and that makes things more difficult for these teams. And also there's the fact that technology is advancing rapidly, and it's hard for digital forensics to keep up because they have to constantly tag along after the technology and find ways to access that new data, the new technology, and the tools keep changing, and there's no standard, and that's difficult for an industry where everything is constantly changing so rapidly as this. And then there's a lot more data present. There isn't just text messages and call logs now. There's so much more data, and that leads to longer searching times and more data to search for. And there's more places to hide data, more places to let data sneak under the radar. And another problem is that all these tools aren't universal. So not only are the phones not universal, but the devices used for digital forensics aren't universal. So a team may need multiple tools for complete search because not one tool can do every single part of the examination. There needs to be multiple tools to back everything up. And then one of the biggest problems is the difficulty with passwords and the Fifth Amendment. Lots of people have run into the scenario where an officer demands them to give him their password. And some people wonder, is this okay or not? Is this an infringement of their Miranda rights due to the fact that they may be possibly giving away self-incriminating information? And there's another fact that some cases and some issues and some results have been that police may try to crack the password, but only on site during the arrest. And then the ambiguity comes with, well, how long do they have? What's their time frame? There's just a lot of ambiguity and no standard in this, and there's different cases have different results, and that's one of the really big problems. Finally, mobile device forensics is more complicated than normal digital forensics due to the lack of standards in the industry, rapid technological advancement, and legal ambiguity regarding many cases. Thank you.